Active astronaut Don Petit has to say.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
Are you serious? We don't have the technology to go back to the moon, and it's too much of a painful process to put back together again? You're talking about NASA, who has had hundreds of billions, upwards to over $1 trillion given to them by the US government to do this exact type of stuff. The moon landing is supposed to be one of NASA's biggest accomplishments, and they can't even reproduce it? Considering the fact that we've had cell phones, an increase in technology, and a bell curve of innovation over the past 50 and 60 years. But yeah, what he said. If that wasn't weird enough, let's meet Gene Kranz, the Apollo 11 flight director.
I haven't seen anything that indicates the telemetry data is even in existence, and as I said, even if we had it, we don't have the machines to play it back.
But your own research has shown the telemetry data is missing.
That's right.
Could this be true?
No big deal, just the original science data from the moon landing. Completely missing. Is that supposed to be understandable from a $1 trillion branch of government? Let's take a trip to NASA's Goddard Space Center with a man who made a documentary talking about this exact stuff.
If it's anywhere, it should be here at NASA's Goddard Space Center in Maryland, home to the National Space Science Data Archives.
This film you're making now, what is it? Does it have a name? I mean, do you have a name for it yet, or
I'm calling it Did We Go?
Did We Go? Okay.
Doesn't have it either. The Smithsonian doesn't have it. Johnson doesn't have it.
Right. We've been unable to track it down. I mean, we don't know where this telemetry data ended up, and we don't know what path it may have taken. So. Unfortunately, I'm afraid I can't really give you much of a clue as to where this data ended up and whether it still exists or not.
NASA admitted that it had lost the original footage of man's first steps on the moon.
That's correct. They also admitted to losing the original footage. This is not a conspiracy theory, folks. This is mainstream news. It's in Reuters. What I spoke about earlier was in the Forbes. No big deal, just the data, the footage, and the technology from the moon landing completely missing. What's their excuse for losing the tapes? Oh, we were running out of tapes, so we needed to retape over those tapes. Considering the budget is up to $17 billion per year, doesn't that seem a little strange? I'm not saying we didn't go to the moon. I'll let you draw your own conclusions and have your own theories as to what truly happened. All I'm saying is, it's very, very odd that we don't have the technology to go back to the moon, we don't have the original moon landing footage, and we don't have the data from the moon landing. Considering the hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars that NASA has received from the federal government and from your taxpayer dollars, maybe next time we can employ somebody to keep an eye on this stuff. Thank you for watching, and let me know your thoughts in the comments.
All of that happened in a little town called York, Maine, across the United States from where we're talking to you right now. Across the United States from where we're talking to you right now.
You've inspired so many people to enter the sciences. How do you balance science with science fiction? They're both the same.
I've been discussing time and warping time and time-space with some famous scientists. I'm doing something up in Canada which may sell, they may sell that show called The Truth Is in Our Stars. And I've talked to Michio Kaku and David Suzuki, and I'm going in a couple of weeks to talk to Dr. Stephen Hawking. And I tried to get through his book, A Brief History of Time. It's not brief. And it doesn't have much to do with history. And everybody I've met who is acquainted with the subject, I'm continually asking, look, I hear space-time all the time. No, space-time, it's space-time. That without space, without time, it's time and space, the space is the time. Hard to comprehend what it is. Well, I don't comprehend what it is, so I ask these very important people who are working in the field, what is space-time? And they say, well, the gravitational force takes the photon of light and it bends the photon of light. So without space, without time, you come to time that comes. I said, well, wait a minute. If in 13, and I said this to Dr. Kaku, in 13.5 years, he says, no, 13.8. billion years. He corrected me by 0.3 billion years. If that photon, I said to him, if that photon of light at that farthest galaxy takes 13.8 billion years to reach my eye, isn't that time? And he said, yes, but the space-time and the time and the space and the space and the time. And I couldn't understand, my opening sentence to everybody, including it will be to Dr. Hawking, what is space-time? And I can't, and I know 17 people just raised their hands. I'll tell you about space-time. But it's a concept that I just can't get through my head.
Well, you can understand time, the passage of time.
Are you going to explain to me what space-time is?
Yes. And you can understand the idea that there's space, there's a distance between you and these 6,000 people.
Wow. You said that with a measure of pride, too.
Yeah.
Creation, 6,000 people are in the ark.
But it takes a certain amount of time for you to pass from here all the way over to the other side of the auditorium.
Right, that's space.
That is time going, time going through space.
You see, that's not what they mean at all. That shows me that you have no idea. I mean, so the guy said, one of the gentlemen said, well, there are 3 dimensions, space, length, width, right? And then you have the concept of time. So something happens within that space, you got time. That's the 4th dimension. Yeah. And the concept of time. So something happens within that space, you got time. That's the 4th dimension. Yeah. And I said, well, I get that. Something happens within a cube, and you have time, and then you have length and breadth and width. And I get the, what's the 5th dimension, I said.
That's a fantastic band.
A fantastic band. That was my first thing. So I said, just give me another, because he said there's 11, then he said there's 17, and then I heard lately there's 26 other spaces. Dimensions, multiverses. No, wait a minute. So I said, well, just give me one other dimension. I don't care about 16 or 17 or 26. What is the 5th dimension? What is it? Give me another dimension. And the answer is, we can't conceive of that.
You know, right.
So
that doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Well, it doesn't mean it does exist. You know, so I mean, so I said to Dr. Taco, he said, it's in the, because he's working on string theory. You know about string theory.
Yeah, and I find that incredibly confusing too.
But we're not talking about the stuff you wrap a package about, Adam. It's vibration of some kind in a string. Okay? So I said, he said, it's like music. I said, well, I understand an orchestra with vibrating instruments. I got that. What do you play? What's your instrument? What do you do? When you get up in the morning, doctor, what do you do? And he says, it's all in my head. I think. I said, well, how do you prove what you're thinking exists? Because it's all theory. He said, well, I've got this very elegant numbers, equation, yeah. Very E, B divided to 7 to 4. It's all in his head. How do you prove a black hole? How do you know those gravitational waves prove the collision of 2 black holes?
Somehow, eventually, they are able to observe phenomena.
No, they can't observe. It's too far away. It's too theoretical. How do we know what they're saying is true? You know what it really is? It's all science fiction.
So does that make you a skeptic?
No, well, science fiction says, this is a story that I'm making up. And there's this thing called wormholes. And that's a science fiction concept. Although these scientists say there are wormholes. How do you know?
The mystery of science fiction is what I'm talking about. Science and science fiction are essentially the same.